Hello YouTubers. Obviously we've looked at how to know when your head gasket is gone. So what we're going to look at today is how to take the head off. Now this car is only a single cam, so it's a lot easier. Some cars have two cams, which the head is obviously a lot bigger. There's a couple of ways of doing it. What I'm going to do just for this video is I'm just going to knock off the timing belt. I'm not going to do it properly in the sense of get all the marks timed right, because this one has a keyway at the bottom and we can mark it very easy. I'm just going to literally push it off out the side just to show you how to get the head off on one video, and then I'm going to show you the timing belt on a separate video. It'll just make the video a little bit easier, I reckon. The only thing you really have to watch out for is the exhaust bolts down here, because they're very rusty and obviously they've got hot and cold over the years. They have a tendency to snap. You can sometimes maybe preheat the car and turn them off. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then the problem is the engine's warm or hot, so it's harder to work on. So I don't particularly bother. I just put a load of WD-40 on them or anything you have, wire brush them, and then try and take them off basically. So we're going to get cracking on with it, and let's take the head off. Now doing a job like this, I can't stress how much Tipp-Ex is going to be your best friend to do any of this, because everything you have to mark. We don't have to, but believe me, it makes it so much easier. You can mark the HT leads, you don't have to, because they can only really go in one place. But if you're unsure, leave the first one obviously with no marks on. Put this Tipp-Ex to work, that'll help. And you can just put two little marks on the second one. If the Tipp-Ex will work. Now, a way to remember where cylinder 1 is. Cylinder 1's always next to the timing belt. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the way to remember it. For some reason, this Tipp-Ex doesn't want to work. Now, so there's 2 marks there. We can put 3 marks on this one. Just like that. And 4 marks on that one. Now, literally take them off and move them out of the way. Unclip them from here, pull them out. So that one seems to be very hard. Now, they can go out of the way. So that's the first thing off. Next we're going to take off all the breather pipes and stuff like that. So it's just really, there's no point really filming this. I'm just going to Jubilee clip here, Jubilee clip here, and a couple more Jubilee clips. Now as you can see, I've just loosened off a couple of the pipes, cable ties, another breather pipe here. I've taken off the connections there. The more you can move out the way, the more room you have and the easier it is. There's no point, you know, for the sake of a couple minutes taking something off, you might as well. The one thing you want to be careful of is the ignition time in here. Now you don't need to remove this, you don't need to physically take this out, so mark it though, just in case it moves. And again, this one's been marked already, but I'm just going to go over it with Tipp-Ex. Just so I know that it hasn't moved with the mark that I've put in. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take off the exhaust. That's going to be the hardest job. Once that's off, everything's kind of really straightforward. There's a cover here with a couple of stars on them, or torque, so we'll whip them off first and then we'll see the actual manifold underneath there. Now, it's an E10 star head, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little nuts to take off the heat shield. So we're going to take off that first. Sometimes these two can snap, and if there's 5 on this, and if a couple snap, you're okay. If they all snap, then, well, let's do something about it. Now these are coming off quite easy, which is a good sign. What I like to see. And then this heat shield comes off. That's the side. Now you can see the manifold. And normally, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts. But as you can see, they're very, very rusty looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a wire brush and some WD-40, or I use SAS, and give them a rub and give them a soak for a good 20 minutes before I do anything with them. So I'm giving them a rub as best I can. It's difficult to get into all of them. You can just definitely knock off some of the crap, make it a little bit easier. I can't really get into the bottom ones. And then literally absolutely soak them in this SAS. Now I'm going to leave that for about 20 minutes to soak in before I go anywhere near anything else. Now I've left that for about 15-20 minutes. It's a 13mm socket. I'm using a 1/2 inch ratchet. Well, that one was loose. I don't know if that's good or bad, to be honest. Take this one out first anyway. Now these come out in 1 or 2 ways. I'll show you now. They'll either come out like that with the nut and bolt, or they'll just come off with the nut. It doesn't really matter which way they come out. It really doesn't, as long as they come out. That's the most important thing. That was a bit tighter. Turn it, it's a good sign. Okay, that one's turning as well. God, these are loose. Whoa, these are all loose. I mean, they're not even tight. I mean, that's great news for me. Look at that. I mean, that is, I've never had that before. I've had them tight. They're just so loose. I'm not complaining, but I mean, they're just so loose. I'm going to take them off with the air gun now. I mean, that's great. Now this is the air gun I'm using. They're not an impact air gun, but they're great, just especially when bolts are loose and stuff. Just, it makes it faster. It's an Ingersoll Ram 1/2 inch air gun. I might help if I do it the right way. Now if these were really tight, I wouldn't be using this. I'd be using the hand ratchet, because these could still damage it. But because they're so loose, I mean, it's just going to make it easier for me. Now, as you can see, this one, just the nut come off. Now I'm going to take off the rest. There's no point in me filming, I'm just going to whip off the rest and I'll show you when we've got them off. Now there's just one more bolt I can't get to, so I'm going to take off this water pipe here. And even that goes straight forward to a 7 or 8mm spanner. Now it's a 6mm. Now the only thing that's worrying me is because this manifold was so easy to get off, what's going to go wrong? Normally, when things are hard to get off and they come off easy, something always goes wrong, so let's hope it doesn't on this time. Now water's going to come out, but this water, remember, there's no point saving it because it's full of oil and it's just the water, it's full of oil and crap, so there's just, you know, let it drain off, flush the system out, put fresh stuff in when you come to rebuild it. If you can even get the pipe off. Now, pipe's off, bend it out of the way somewhere. Now I can get to that other bolt. Now that bolt's proving to be a bit of a nightmare to get out. I can't get it out with my 1/2 inch ratchet. So I'm actually using a 3/8 drive with a wobbly bar. Now what I mean by a wobbly bar is this is a normal extension. When you put the socket all the way in, obviously it doesn't move. This, you pull the socket out halfway and you've got movement. Now you've got a lot of movement all the way around really. And when you look at the top of it, you can see how it's shaped. So these are called wobbly bars. They're absolutely brilliant. And with this, I can get to what I need to get to. Put it on my ratchet. Watch this one now be really hard to get off, the most awkwardest one. Now it's on. No, still really easy. Now, because I know it's easy to take off and it's not hard, I'm going to use the air ratchet on again. This is a snap-on one, Blue Point snap-on, same thing, and obviously it's a 3/8 drive. But you can see the movement you get on the wobbly bar. It's fantastic. Now it's out. And now the whole manifold should just literally come out to you. Might take a bit of a wiggle. As you can see, it just literally slides off and you can just leave it down. Take off the gasket just so it doesn't get damaged. And you can check the gasket whether it needs replacing or not. As you can see from this one, it does need replacing, so we will replace that. So that's one side off. Now we need to take the inlet side off, which is obviously on the opposite side, which is down here. So we need to take this side off now. Take a timing belt off, undo the bolts, off, simple. Now I don't know how well you're going to see this, but basically it's exactly the same as what we've just done. There's normally the same amount of bolts, and it's just a case of taking them off. Obviously you can't see very well down in the engine. I'm on my own as well, so that doesn't help. But it's essentially the same thing. I'll just see if I can get it on a little bit now. They're the head bolts there, and down in here, can't quite see. But anyway, there's one bolt. There's another bolt here where my finger is, but it's under all the wires. But anyway, basically they're all along there. They're normally, I say this now, but they're normally a lot easier to do because they don't get as hot as the exhaust, so they normally are easy to take off. Leave as much of this as you can intact. There's no point taking off all these pipes and everything here, because you can take off the whole inlet manifold and just push it all the way back. There's a couple of like earth straps and stuff we have to take off, but all the throttle linkages, all these breather pipes and all the electrics can all be left on and literally just push this back. That is the simplest and easiest way of doing this particular one. Well, any of them really. Now I'm just going to take off these bolts. There's no point in me filming it because it's just the same as the other one, and when I come to take off the couple of connections, I'll film that again. Now I'm halfway there now. I've got all the top bolts off, but I've just taken off the fan belt. You can't really see it, but it's down there. Now there is a couple of bars holding on the alternator at the top. There's one here and there's one going across. You don't have to actually take them off. It's down there. Look, there's one of them, and the other one is at the back there. You don't need to take them off because the whole thing will come off as one and it will push back to the back. So it's just something to be aware of. This does normally take a bit longer to take off because the bolts, as you can see, they're right down in there. You can just see one there, look, just there in the middle. They're a bit harder to get to, but normally they're easier to take off, just a bit trickier to get to. So it'll take a few more off, and then that's the inlet manifold taken off. And like I said, all these pipes and everything here leave on. Now I'm just taking off the air breather, so it's just a Jubilee clip here. That pops out. Should do. Right, wait a second. And two bolts up here. The reason I'm doing that is because there's a bolt right down here that I'm struggling to get to, and it's just going to make it a bit easier for me. And also it's going to need cleaning because I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of gunk in here, especially with the head gasket being done. And it's only a second to take it off, so there's no harm. Now, I can actually just leave that to the side. Don't need to take them pipes off. Leave it to the side like that. Another good tip to do that I find is up here I have all the bolts from the inlet manifold and the exhaust separately, just so you know exactly where they go to put back. There's a few different tools I've used to get this back manifold off. A few different size bars, a 13mm spanner, because some of the nuts are harder to get to than others, so use a couple of size bars, couple of size sockets, spanners and stuff like that. So just this next one, what I'm going to have to use is just the 13mm short socket on the ratchet, and hopefully I can get to that last one there now. Now what I've ended up doing is just taking the 2 bolts off here and just moving the alternator down. It just allows me to get into this bolt a hell of a lot easier. It's just inside there. The reason why I did that is because the last thing you want to do is round that bolt by not getting the socket on all the way, because then you are going to have a lot of trouble. And it took a couple of seconds to take off that, push that out of the way. I can get to that last bolt a hell of a lot easier. And also putting it back on is going to be easier too. Now I managed to get it off nice and easy. Now as you can see, this whole manifold, everything will just literally slide back. It doesn't need to completely come off, it just needs to slide back. Nothing in its way. It's sound, just like that. Now all I'm going to do is there's a couple of earth straps here, a couple of connections that are onto the head, and just disconnect them, and that's it. So there's 2 earth straps here, 2 13mm bolts there, and there's a little pipe here at the back, a little breather pipe, and as far as I can see, oh yeah, and the connections here for the spark, that can go, so that's now disconnected, and there's the breather pipe here for the brakes, so that has, well sorry, that doesn't have to be connected, no, that's on the manifold, sorry. So really it's just this pipe here, can't really see, but anyway there's a pipe there and 2 10mm bolts there, that's it. So we'll whip them off now, or 2 13mm bolts, sorry. There's 2, so they're off. And as far as I can see, like I said, it is literally just this pipe here, which you get some pliers, squeeze that clip together and push it off. Now I'm using these gadgets, these are brilliant. They're on a little ratchet, so they lock as you tighten them. They can't come back unless you release this pin here, because these are these little springy clips, and when you try and grab them with pliers they just slip off and they're really annoying. This literally goes on either end of it, it clamps down, and as it clamps down it locks like a vice grip. You can just slide it out, then press the button to release, and it's as simple as that. Push the pipe off then, screwdriver. This pipe's been on for a while, so flat blade screwdriver, just get to the top of it and just gently persuade it off. Be careful you don't damage it. What we'll do is we'll take that off. Once the head comes off we can just slide it out, it'll be a lot easier. Once the head, we'll just move the head this way, it'll be so much easier to do. So yeah, the only next thing now is the timing belt. But first, I'm gonna have a cup of tea. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this out of the way just to make it easier for me. So the breather box, a couple of 10mm nuts on it, just take this out of the way. And then you can see the timing belt a lot better. And then we'll be ready to take off the head. Put the bolt down here. Now, just take this out of the way, just to make it a bit easier for me. So there's just the bolt there and the bolt there. You don't have to take them all the way off. Just leave enough space between the washer and there, and they just slide out the couple, slide there and there. Now basically it means I get to the timing belt better. Now what I'm going to do on this particular car, because there is a keyway on the bottom, it's not like a lot of the French cars. I'm not going to take the timing belt off properly in the sense of the way I would normally do it if I'm changing it, because I'm taking the head off. So basically I'm just going to slide the belt off and show you how to take the head off. Then once we put the head back on, I'll show you then how to put the timing belt back on properly. So I'm going to do it slightly differently, because if I show you how to take off the belt properly now, it's just the videos are going to be mixed up and it's not going to really flow right together. So I'm just going to literally take off the cover, slide off the belt, which I know I can get away with on this particular car. If it was a Renault or any newer French cars, even the Focuses, you can't do it that way. But on this one I know I can, so I'm going to do that and then whip off the head. So that's the next thing to take off, is the case for the timing belt. It's just a couple of 10mm nuts. Might need a socket for this. Now as you can see, that's the top of the timing belt, the top cam. So all I'm going to do is literally, and you can see the actual mark is there, and the mark on the case is there, but I don't need to line that up. So one mark is there and the other mark is there, but I don't need to line that up yet. And I'll show you why. Once you watch the rest of the videos, you'll realise why I don't actually have to do that for this particular car. Now if I was just doing the timing belt, I wouldn't be doing it this way. If it wasn't for taking off the head, because the head gasket is gone, I would be obviously setting these marks up properly. That would just make it easier for myself. But on this particular case, I don't need to. So I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to take off these two bolts here, because the bolts underneath here are actually connecting this case to the head. So we need to take off them two bolts. Now, like I said, there's the mark and there's the mark. That's if you was doing the timing belt properly. Well, that's if you were just taking it off, but we're obviously doing stuff slightly different. I need to move this out the way so I can get to that bolt there and that bolt there. So basically I just need to turn it a little bit. Now I can see them two bolts, and what that's going to allow me to do is that will allow me to take the head off without ripping this plastic or anything like that. Then I'll just slide off the belt and we can take the head off. So there's just a couple of stars in there that look like 45, so I'll just get the bolt for that. Now it's a T30 torque that these bolts are. They shouldn't be that tight. And that's two. Now what that's done is that's allowed the cover to be away from the head. So apart from just taking off this belt now, I should literally be able to undo the head bolts and then we're free. Do you know, I might have to take out this cam, or if I look further down I might be able to take off this cover, but we'll see when we get to it. But next thing I'm going to do is just going to literally rip off this belt. Now I have to take off the cam because the cover is obviously tied in a lot more, so I'm going to use the air gun again because it's a lot easier, and I'm just going to take off this cam bolt here. Now, simple as that. And literally then rock it enough. I don't need persuasion tool. Now that's just come off, and the good thing about that is it can only go on one way, because again there's a nipple. Oh, what's a nipple again? So that cam can only go on one way, can line up with that nipple through this hole, so that you cannot get the timing marks wrong. You just can't, because it can only go one way. So now I've done that, slightly cheating doing that, but you'll see why in the later videos why I've done that. So now I'm just going to take off the head bolts, and this head's going to be off. It ducks ours.
Excuse me.
Johnny wants to look like a duck's ass. Fair play to you, whatever suits yourself. Whatever floats your boat, do you know what I mean? Right, YouTubers. Now, we've just got head bolts to do now. So all I've got is a 17mm socket, medium extension, and a big long bar. And it's as simple as that. Don't put any air tools or anything like that on them, because you can potentially start damaging threads inside the block and stuff like that, which you don't want to do. So anyway, all I'm going to literally do is just crack each one as I go. So, as you can see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go along like that. Once I've cracked them all, I'm going to get the smaller ratchet and I'm just going to spin them off. There's no point us filming this, but that's what I'm going to do. What you got to do is, these are all now loose, but I haven't taken any of them out yet. They're just there loose. You have to make a little template up. And I've just put top and tire belt, so I know it goes this way. And I've just punched 10 holes in it. What I'm going to do is, as I take one bolt out of here, I'm going to put it in the corresponding place that's in the cardboard there. Because not all cars, but on some cars you can reuse the head bolts. Now I've got to check on my computer, I haven't done it yet. If you're replacing the bolts, you can just take these head bolts out and not worry about it. But if you can renew them, you have to put this head bolt back in the same place where it was. It's very important. So all I'm doing now is just taking them off, put them in the hole, so I know if I can reuse them. If they're not stretch bolts, I can put these back in the exactly same spot. And we're going to have no worries. And the last one, the head. Now, because I've got the timer belt at the top there, this can only go one way. So I can now put that in the back of the car and I know I'm going to be okay. That's a really good tip. If you can reuse the bolts. If not, you can't do this. If you replace them anyway, just take them out. Now, so yeah, hopefully now this head should come off, but be careful because there could always be something you forgot. So don't just yank it off because there could be a wire or something. I think I'll get everything off, but I'm not 100% sure. But technically, this should now be loose. And it is loose. So obviously that's a good sign. Well, this actually splits into two. So we'll just take that off first. That's the rocker cover and the cam's in there as well. So that's all one unit. This is then the head. And as we can see, looking at that, there's damage done there as well, which isn't good. But anyway, so that's the head, or the rocker cover. So all the crap that's in there, I have to clean that out. This is then the head, this part here. And for some reason, these seem to be moved. Now they could have been moved from me, but I doubt it. So I'm going to make sure, put them all back. And just put them in line, so just so you know that there's no damage. That all looks okay. I'd say that was maybe me lifting the head off that did that. As you can see, all this kind of browny, horrible, crappy stuff. So we need to clean all that as well. But this is the head. So the head now should come off. Now, the second part of the head, we've removed the rocker cover. This was a bit stiff, to be honest. So just got a lever bar and I put it in the back of the engine, between the engine and the water hose here. And I just very gently just levered it like that and it came off. So now, oh, a bit of thunder and lightning. So now the head's off. Try and lift the head up straight because you don't want all these falling over the place because these will come off quite easy. So we're going to look at the head in a minute, but I'm just going to lift it out of the way for the minute. And now this is the middle of the engine, you could say, the old pistons. So I'm going to call it for this particular video now, and in the next one we'll go through on cleaning this, preparing this ready for the new head gasket, also checking the pistons, and also doing the same with the head, checking the head over, making sure it's not warped, cleaning it and all that sort of stuff. So that's what we're going to do next. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up the video and subscribe, and don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.